Hi!
And welcome back to our podcast, Biology with M&A,
Not DNA.
where biology
Gets interesting.
this time the episode about ecology. Our second episode already in our series.
We started a series about corals. So if you haven't seen the episode, listened
Listen to our
to
episode
1 about coral biology.
You should definitely do that because
Yes,
it's very interesting.
look it out. It's interesting and it's easier to understand things that we're gonna talk about today.
Exactly.
So today, Naomi is the expert about coral reef ecology, and I'm very hyped about hearing more about it. So, do you want to start?
Yes, of course.
Like, what is actually like a
Coral reef. I'm just going to explain the 4 different types of the coral
that's
reefs.
cool. Yes.
The first one, the fringing reefs, they grow really near the coastline. It doesn't matter if it's like island or continent, but they're not directly on the coastline, but like separated from the shore by a narrow and shallow lagoon.
Okay.
And the next one, the barrier reefs, are like very similar to the first one. The only difference is that these lagoons, or now the part which is between the reef and the coast, is not a narrow lagoon.
So it's bigger.
Yes, it's much deeper. It's deeper and wider lagoons between the shore and the reefs.
Okay, that's very interesting because I always thought that like barrier reefs were the only ones that existed.
That's because many people are talking about the barrier reefs because, as the name is already saying, it sometimes or mostly forms a barrier because the reefs often reach until the water surface because they're much higher than the part which is deeper, also than the deeper lagoons.
Yes.
And because of this, they're forming a barrier. So other navigation can't.
They're also huge, right? Like the
exactly.
big.
And the first, the third ones, the atolls are. I think I can imagine that these are the most beautiful ones, but maybe you can't say which are the most beautiful ones because all of them are beautiful.
Okay, yes.
But they form like rings of corals, and then in the middle they create protected lagoons without corals.
That's
and
crazy.
They are usually located in the middle of the ocean, and they're usually formed when islands surrounded by fringing reefs sink into the sea, or the sea
like it rises the water.
rises up, and then
cool.
the island just is like drowning. And
that's like almost also because like the Earth's surface like moves, and like then sometimes like island sinks. I think like same way like mountains grow or something.
Exactly, that's another reason. The patch reefs are small isolated reefs that grow up from the open bottom of the island platform or the continental shelf.
Yes.
Usually they occur between the fringing and the barrier reefs.
Okay, like in the middle then.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, that's very interesting.
So, knowing about the different reefs, we talked in the first episode much about the zooxanthellae.
Oh, yes.
But
we didn't really say what they are and what exactly they are. So
I wanted to explain you guys this. Actually, this is a species of the algae. That's the name of it. And there are 5 million cells of 1 square centimeter of coral tissue. Like, it's very, very much. Yes.
So they're like living in the coral.
Yes, this algae lives in a symbiosis with the corals, in the coral.
Inside, like the tissue.
Inside, yes, exactly.
It's crazy.
And as the name symbiosis says, or for these people who don't know what symbiosis is, this is living together from two individuals, and they get like different things from each other, and they're like depending on each other to survive.
And what do they exchange, like zooxanthellae and corals then?
Also the zooxanthellae, they do photosynthesis in the corals. So the coral gets organic carbon products as sugars or glycerol and amino acids. And in return, the zooxanthellae get from the corals carbon dioxide and obviously the position with sunlight. And phosphates and nitrogen compounds.
Okay, that's so cool.
But the corals are not the only species which are doing the symbiosis with the zooxanthellae. There are some jellyfishes, some nudibranchs. Nudibranchs are like sea snails. And sponges and flatworms. And they all have like these bright colors.
That's so cool.
And they are getting these colors from the algae.
So like if they're green from the chlorophyll.
Yes.
Like plants.
That's one part of it, but as we know, the corals are not only green, there are many different colors, and they get these colors from other chemical compounds. One is chlorophyll, and then there are others, obviously, because there are different kind of
plants too,
yes,
and
exactly.
algae. That's true. Like in our aquarium, we have red algae and like brown algae and so on. So we see every type of it.
Exactly.
And like, I think when I was researching for the first episode, I read something about like types of corals who live like very deep in the ocean, and like they don't get sunlight, I suppose. So how do they eat? It's like crazy.
The Symbiodinium, also the zooxanthellae, only can go like with corals which are in a depth than less than 60 meters. So corals which can in fact grow in the deep from 3,300 meters.
It's crazy.
Obviously don't get sunlight.
Okay.
So they have to get food from elsewhere.
Yes, so like this like 10% that like they got from like eating fishes and other organisms and plankton. So I suppose it's like their only like form of sustainment, like of feeding.
They're eating only plankton and suspended organic particles, and because of that they also grew much slower.
Okay. And
also the structure is different. They have less calcified. They're less calcified, and they're more susceptible to mechanical damage.
Oh, okay.
But they can be around much colder temperatures.
Yes.
Because the other corals, they're also especially soft corals, they need warm water temperatures.
Also for the algae, right? Because they're very...
Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting.
So the corals which have this symbiosis with the zooxanthellae are very depending on this symbiosis. So when they're stressed, you may have heard from coral bleaching.
Yes, of course.
Now when the
very...
water temperatures are getting higher, also a big problem. And this is in fact because not only high water temperature, but other reasons. When corals get stressed, and they get stressed very easily, we have seen it in the aquarium by ourselves.
Yes, sadly they all died. Like not all of them. We saved some of them, but it's a very delicate
Situation.
situation. So like these very complicated reefs are crazy how they're working. But you were saying that when they get stressed, what does it happen?
When they get stressed, then coral bleaching takes place, and that's meaning the polyps expel the zooxanthellae. So they don't they don't can hold up this symbiosis, and because of that they don't get enough food, and then they die.
Okay.
And this coral bleaching and also other problems which is very risky for the corals are, for example, also coral mining, pollution, not only organic but also non-organic pollution.
Yes.
The overfishing is also a big problem. And digging of canals and diseases.
Okay.
And a fact that's very
alarming.
Alarming and shocking is that forecasts say that until 2030, 90% of the reefs are expected to be at risk from human activities and climate change.
90%. That is like crazy, because I also like heard they're so important. It's such a big biodiversity in this coral reef, so there might be so many fishes and species who are supported by this.
Yes, even though only 1% of the ocean,
so the ocean floor
is with coral reefs. 30% of the fishes are depending on coral reefs because of the ecology and biodiversity in these coral reefs.
Yes, that's true.
And one example, which is also a serious danger to coral health, is sunscreen.
Sunscreen?
And I think it's kind of ironic because it's healthy for our skin.
Yes.
But 14,000 tons of sunscreen get into the oceans. Not only because people are swimming in vacation and losing their sunscreen, but also from dirty water coming into the oceans.
Okay.
And one chemical compound which is a common ingredient is oxybenzone. And this also causes coral bleaching and also impacts other marine fauna. And because of this, they wanted to ban sunscreens. They banned sunscreens in, for example, Palau and Hawaii.
So you're just getting burned, or are there other types of sunscreen?
They're writing, yes, you can cover yourself with clothes and just sit in the shadow, but no, not all sunscreens are banned. But I think it's a list with 10 ingredients.
Okay. That's
chemical ingredients, and then you just have to look. And also skincare products, you have to look up if they're with these ingredients. I don't know what's happening when you do it. But I don't think you're getting into prison.
So come with me. But it's kind of funny because you have to choose between skin cancer and coral bleaching. So
yes, I think you have
pay attention just
and looking for a good solution.
Yes, because coral bleaching is a very serious problem.
Yes, exactly.
You've for sure already seen images, I guess, of all these beautiful reefs that are now destroyed and white.
It looks very sad.
With no living creatures in there.
So for the end, I wanted to tell you what other functions the corals have in reefs. They are also food for some species.
Okay.
I kind of find it's a little bit funny because I still can't get it in my head that they're not stones. As it's obvious, I know they're not stones, but
they look like slugs.
Yes,
Let's be
I have like problems
honest.
to imagine that there are like other animals eating corals, but the butterfly fishes are an example for which are eating the corals, or also flamingo-tongued snails. They're eating some soft corals. And not only for the algae, kind of, can corals be the home, but also for the pygmy seahorse. Some corals are their home. And yes,
That's very interesting.
now for the end, I have a little fun fact.
I love fun facts.
When you have listened to the first episode, you now know what I'm going to talk about. You told us about the
Poison,
stinging,
right?
Yes, genau, the poison, also the venom that the corals are using to catch like little fishes and so on.
It's also like a defense mechanism, I guess.
Exactly.
It's like against bigger fishes who would otherwise eat them if they don't have like an antidote or something.
Exactly. But obviously this amount is like not that big because corals aren't, as the polyps are very small. So for big individuals like dolphins, this venom doesn't have a big impact. In fact, maybe yes, it has an impact, but not like a dangerous impact. Dolphins, or some dolphins, swim against the tissue of the corals, and then they're getting high from it because they're
using it as drugs.
venom. Yes, exactly.
I can't get this image out of my head of just a dolphin banging itself against corals.
And then they're high, and then they're like floating in the water high.
Corals are just beautiful.
Yes, very much information, which is very fascinating.
It's like we widened a little bit the picture with this episode. I guess like the other time we were like very focused on the biology. This one, so
and it's all very mind-blowing.
I learned a lot from listening to you. It was really cool. So thank you very much. And yes, we hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yes, and you guys learned something about it.
Yes, and also like the whole series about corals. So that you're now coral experts.
And big fans.
Super fans, of course. So I guess this is the end.
Yes.
So we wish you a good day. And bye!
Bye!